G'day, my name is Robert Cook and I work for RPAS Training and Solutions. They're based in Kiama. As a trainer over the years we've seen a lot of people come and go on our courses. We thought we'd put together some of the tips and procedures that we've discovered, probably more than anything else on our courses, that people tend to overlook. You get a drone, you pull it out of the box, you put it up in the sky, and then you wish that you had read the instructions. Well, we hope that you will read the instructions, but at least also watch this video. There might be some tips and procedures that will help you fly better. Thank you for watching. Well, let's have a look at the first thing that we need to consider when we go out flying, and that is answer the question, is it safe to fly here? And there's a lot to think about. In this picture you'll see a lot of items of things that might become hazards if they're in your area. Of course, the first thing I've done is checked the Can I Fly There app if I'm flying sub 2 kg to see if it's actually safe to fly in that location in terms of airspace. When I get to the location, however, it's also important to look for the following things. Are there planes in the area? If there are, then I can't fly. I need to land or not take off. What's the weather like? Is it rainy? Well, that means I can't fly. Is it too windy? Well, that might exceed the limitations of the drone. Is there Wi-Fi interference in the area? Now, your app on your drone will tell you if the signal quality is bad, but you can also use your mobile phone to have a look at how many Wi-Fi hotspots there are in your area, and that will give you an indication as to how much radio interference there might be in that location. Other animals in the area. Now, dogs are really good at coming out and jumping up at drones and preventing you from landing. They can become a real hazard. Are there people in the area? Remember, I've got to stay at least 30 meters away, horizontally that is, away from people. Now, later on you'll realize that the higher you fly, that 30 meters doesn't mean a whole lot, because the higher you fly, it'll probably be less than that. Are there obstacles like trees and that in the area that could create a bit of a challenge as far as running into, or create air currents that might upset my drone flight? We don't want to hit someone's car, so parked cars are an issue too. Look for them. And of course we don't want to run into anyone's property, like their buildings or their houses or apartment buildings. So only after we've answered that question, is it safe legally, and as you have a look around in terms of hazards, can you go ahead and fly? Now, we mentioned height, and height's pretty important. In fact, the higher you fly, the more unsafe it becomes, because the higher you fly, the more likely it is to have a greater impact area when you hit the ground. The truth is, you need to ask yourself the question, how high do I really need to fly? Most cameras with their field of view, things get pretty small once you leave the ground. You don't really need to fly high to get some good photography. 30 meters is good. 60 meters is starting to get high. 90 and 120, which is the max. 120 is the max. Well, really, how often do you really need to go that high? You need to ask that question, because when you're up at 120 meters, not only are you up so high that it's hard to see the drone, believe it or not, it's also closer to where planes fly up above you, so they can come down to 500 feet, but you need to maintain 500 foot separation between you and a plane. So height is a big factor. You don't really need to fly that high. Another consideration we need to take into account when we're flying is how far we're going to fly away from ourselves. Now you'll see plenty of people on the net talking about how far they can fly their drone, and often they'll be talking kilometres and massive distances like that. But really, you don't need to fly far to get good footage, and not only that, it is actually illegal. The definition of visual line of sight requires you to be able to continually see, orientate and navigate the aircraft to meet the person's separation and collision avoidance responsibilities without or a telescope or something like that. So basically that means that you should be able to see what the drone's over. What is it flying over? Are there people underneath that drone? Now it's a reality that the further away you are, the greater the depth perception issue becomes. It's actually harder to tell what that drone is over. Is it directly over the point that I think it's over? Or is it actually over some people? Or is it closer than I think? We all have different depth perception capabilities. And it so happens that the higher you are as well will change that depth perception. In fact, the higher you are will make the drone seem a bit closer to you in terms of horizontal distance. So basically for something like a Phantom 3 or 4, that size drone, 200 meters max is about the limit in terms of obeying that rule of being able to orientate your drone and to navigate it so that you know where that drone is and what's underneath it. Now here's something that you want to avoid. Do not power up your drone without the controller turned on. It is quite possible that that drone might fly away. It's dangerous, so make sure that you do not power up your drone without the controller on, or that drone might decide to fly away, leaving you very embarrassed. In fact, not only embarrassed, it can be potentially dangerous. Right, so if it isn't good practice to have your controller off while your drone's on, what is the proper startup sequence? Well, it's good practice to turn your transmitter or controller on first. Make sure it's on, make sure that the app is working and all's good on the transmitter. Now with the drone on the ground, and it's important to keep the drone on the ground when you turn it on. Next, you can turn on your drone and power it up. There should be a link light up on the transmitter to say the two are talking to each other and ready to go. It's good practice not to leave your controller back at your standing position or some distance away from the drone. In other words, keep your controller with you when you are working on that drone, when that drone is on. You'll often see people who will turn on their transmitter, walk out to their drone and turn it on. Not good practice. It could be that that drone might decide to fly away, leaving you not only red-faced because you can't get back to your controller in time, but again, you could end up in a dangerous situation. Now it is not good practice to carry your drone, pick it up and carry it around when it is on. Whether your transmitter is on or off, it doesn't matter. When that drone is on, there is the potential for it to start up, and it could be really bad. You could cut your finger, you could really hurt yourself. So make sure that your drone is not on when you pick it up. Turn it off first. Before you fly, go through a pre-flight check. Start with the drone itself. Look at its physical condition. Look at the frame. Does it have any loose cables? Are there any cracks in the frame? Are the fixtures, screws and bolts all tight? Are there any cracks around where the bolts go through or the screws go through the frame holding it together? That's often a stress point that you'll often find cracks at. So check the frame, check the motors, make sure that they're mounted securely, that the 4 screws that are holding them down are all secure. Just give the motors a bit of a spin with your finger and just check the bearings, check to see if they're rattly. Check the propellers, each propeller, make sure there's no nicks or cracks on the propellers. Make sure that they're secured and they won't fly off when that drone starts up. And also, before you put the battery in, check its condition, make sure it's charged. And when you put it in, make sure it's secured and that it can't come out. These are just some of the checks. You might be able to add more. Your manufacturer might have some others that you need to add. And don't forget to check your flight controller itself. Make sure it's fully charged, that there's adequate battery level for that flight. And with your antennas, make sure that they're up and at right angles to the drone. That means that they're not pointing at the drone. If you want limited range, point the antennas at the drone and you will have low range. Put the antennas up and at right angles to the drone. Good idea to make sure that the mode switches in GPS mode so that when you take off it's all stable. And when the drone is connected, you'll be looking for a green light on the transmitter. There is one here on the Phantom 3, Phantom 4 transmitter that goes from red to green when the drone and transmitter are talking to each other. Once you have that connection between the transmitter and the drone, start by looking at the flight status screen. Now it normally starts up automatically on a DJI, so it's no issue in terms of finding it, but if you ever need it back, you just tap the center status bar at the top of the app. Now you're looking for things like firmware. Make sure the firmware is up to date. Usually the case is you get out to the field and you suddenly decide that, or the drone suddenly decides it needs a firmware update and you wish you had done that before you left home. Look for radio quality. We want to make sure that our radio signal quality is good. Any one of these aircraft systems checks will light up red. They'll actually have red writing underneath them if there is an issue. Make sure that the compass is calibrated and the IMU, the inertial measurement unit, is also calibrated and good to go. Make sure that your controller battery level is fully charged, and you'll actually also see that on the the aircraft status screen as well. So there it is there. Make sure the drone battery level is up. It'll tell you the battery percentage, and make sure that home position is fixed. We'll talk about that in a sec. So with the transmitter and the drone connected and talking to each other, on your app, check your home position. If you don't do that, you might find that the home position is in some foreign country. And that would be very embarrassing if it decided to go back to some foreign country instead of come back to you. So it's a good practice, at least once in that location, to check that your home position on the map is accurate, that it is indeed where you are. So before you take off, it's good practice to just give one final check of the area. Make sure there's no planes or people walking around into your paddock or area where you're flying, or no wild animals or dogs coming into the area. It's also good practice to stand about 3 meters away from your drone, and that way when you take off and land, you have a good view of that drone and where it's landing, what's underneath it, and whether that drone is rolling to the left or pitching forward or backwards as it's coming down. So before you take off, check the area and stand about 3 meters back from the drone. Now when you've finished your flight and you've safely landed, the first thing you want to do is approach that drone and turn it off first. So turn the drone off first. The drone is now safe. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to bite you. If you pick it up, it's not going to spin up and hit you in the face. It's safe. Then if you want, you can turn off your transmitter, save some battery power, reduce the radio wave radiating out into space, and then you're set to go with your next check. So with everything off, now you can do a post-flight check. So the first thing you can do is check the temperature items. So the first items on that list would be the motors. They tend to cool down quicker than the battery, so just go around, put your fingers on each motor, and if they're hotter than another motor, you'll know that motor will be hotter, and that could indicate that the motor bearings are on their way out, or there's some reason why that motor had to work harder while it was flying. The next thing you can check is pull that battery out and check its temperature. If it's too hot to handle, if it's above 40 degrees, then that battery's been overheated, and you might want to consider how you flew, whether the day is just a hot day. But really, over 40 degrees, and especially 60 degrees for a lithium polymer battery, it's putting it into the bad zone in terms of battery life and even possibility of catching fire. So do the temperature items first, then you can go through with looking at the frame just like you did on the pre-flight, and check the props just like you did on the pre-flight, just confirming that that airframe is worthy after the flight, that nothing's dropped off, that everything's good to go for next time you go flying. And that concludes our flight safety video. It doesn't cover everything. I'm sure you might be able to add to the list. It covers enough points, common things that might be handy to you and helpful for safe flying. So thank you very much for looking at this video. Robert Cook from RPAS Training and Solutions, over and out. Have a good day.